Outlook Podcast. We're here with the Outlook Podcast. Just we're here. We're talking to cool people.
That you didn't even have to think twice about that.
Yeah.
With a slightly more,
Okay,
slightly bolder font.
Hell yeah, dude. I started the podcast just to run it. But for everyone who just joined,
okay.
Yeah, we are talking about the current logo that I just created that you may or may not see because I might change it directly after this podcast, in which case, apparently it looks too magazine-y. Sam's got all the opinions, and I go to him for opinions because he'll tell me how it is. Always.
I am a little hypercritical at times, like on specific things.
Yes.
For sure.
Brother, welcome back to the show. It has been way too long.
I think it's
since
been
the last 2 years. It's been at least 2 years since
Yeah.
I did one of these. Since you did one of these, probably 2.5.
I've actually done 3 of these. I did the first one in my first apartment in Durango, another one in the little bungalow at Fort Lewis in the PC lab,
Yeah.
and then you and I did a dual one with Brad.
Right. Yeah.
Brad.
We kind of co-hosted the Scooter Brad one, but you've been on here 2 other times, just you and me. So that's been awesome. Yeah. But you moved out to LA. You're out in Burbank now. How is Cali treating you?
Dude, it's nuts, man. Out here, I mean, you were here. We experienced a day of pretty much anything that a out of state tourist would want to do. We went to the mall, went shopping, went to the
we had the best
the best carne asada fries in the fucking world.
Yeah, we had the best carne asada fries. My burrito bowl was dank, but that Mexican place was just absolutely insane.
Brick and Flour.
Stop at Brick and Flour if you're in
interested.
Burbank. Shout out.
Yep. We went to the Griffith Observatory, which was fantastic. Had a nice little nighttime photo shoot.
Dreams.
Yep.
Or my La La Land dreams.
Lived like Mia and Sebastian over there, which was good. And had a great time. California is a whole different beast than any of the other Western states or even into the Midwest.
Yeah, because I've spent a lot of time visiting California, right? And coming up and visiting you or Tristan or whoever's up there. And I like it, but the difference in moving there, I'm sure, has to be insane.
Yeah. The lifestyle completely changes. So where I was normally living in small town Colorado, you could live very spontaneously. You didn't have to. You could make loose plans, and everything would kind of work out.
Yeah.
Work was close, skate park was close, school was close. You hardly needed to drive. You could go anywhere on a bike or by your feet. Here in LA, that's not the case. Well, I mean, somewhat. For me, I got really lucky and landed a job as a bellman at a hotel here, the Marriott, and I can ride my scooter there, which is really a nice perk. But aside from that, if I'm going to go scootering, I have to make a plan. It's like a day in advance type situation where you're tomorrow I'm going to go scootering. That's going to be part of my day. And that has admittedly limited my ability to ride. So I've been riding less. The passion's still there, but strictly due to the geography of where I'm living, it's had to take a bit of a back seat in terms of what I'm doing. Because my main impetus, my main reason for moving out to Burbank is to get into the film industry, which is kind of what I'm sort of transitioning my energy into in terms of a professional career.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a lot of us and a lot of people that I've talked to in general is just you have to switch your focus at some point towards something that, is I don't want to say bigger, but at the same time, it's like that has some sustainability. Exactly. That has some money, and you've always been super interested in film. So when I saw that you were headed out there to do that, I was stoked. And when I did visit, everybody that I met the entire time I was there was in content creation of some sort. So it is totally the right place to be. But how is that?
Yeah.
How is that going? Because you just got done with that first short film, right?
I did. I wrote something back in July of 2023. Essentially, like this was weeks after I arrived, and between then and when we eventually shot it in January of 2024, I had assembled a 15-person crew. A family friend of ours came on as our first assistant director. I met a little awesome duo, a cinematographer and editing couple here in Burbank who wanted to hop on and self-funded the project. It's a tight little family drama, essentially like a one-act play.
Right.
And we're in the final stages of editing now. By the time this comes out, it will likely be done. So pretty exciting. That's like my first.
What are you hoping to do with it?
Hopefully, well, the goal at this point is to shop it around to film festivals.
Right.
And for that reason, it won't be published, or at least not in like a large, like kind of forum like YouTube or Vimeo or anything like that. So for close family and friends that wish to see it, I'll be kind of distributing just a file to them.
Right.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. I worked really hard on it. The script is pretty tight. My main goal with it was to depart as far away as I could from, oh, this is a student film.
Right.
Oh, this is like, I wanted it to be authentic and professional and just void of amateurism. So
right.
I think we accomplished that.
I think so too. All the stills,
large part to the crew.
All the stills that I've seen and all the performances from like the actors that you had sent me that you had signed were just incredible, which makes me super excited. And I hope that I can make it out to see one of your debuts somewhere at one of the festivals.
At some point, like perhaps not. Depending on where this one goes. I mean, and again, I don't know where you're going to be at any given time, but
neither do I.
One of the next few projects for sure. Because I mean, I've already talked with our cinematographer about the next thing that I want to do. So like, we're keeping the train rolling.
Right.
And
who are you working with for that?
Very exciting. Potentially. I have Reed and my buddy Nico, who are both kind of on the docket for cinematographer. It'd be cool to change things up, but I mean, I am like for in an industry like this, and I mean, Reed's the man, but for an industry like this, sometimes I kind of have this, if it ain't broke, don't fix it type mentality. And like Reed would be fantastic, but what we've got going is like a really solid, tight-knit, committed crew. And so if one of those kind of above the line individuals gets dropped, that could potentially screw up kind of down the line, kind of a domino effect. But I'd love the chance to work with any and all of these acquaintances turned friends.
Pretty much any of these creative outlets. It's like you need to learn how each other works and you need to learn each other's style. And when you get a style going, like go with that for a while. And I think that Tiffany, like my sister, she's a singer-songwriter in Nashville, but she has found this now that she like is switching up producers here and there just to get a different style, just so that she can have some different like opinions there. And right now what you're working with, like, correct, go after what you're doing, man. But like eventually when you like get bored of your style or whatever and you need some refreshing, like you're in the place where there's tons of that.
No, there's definitely ample people with all sorts of different takes on their various forms of art, and that's no different with cinematographers. They all have a different vision, they all have a different way of seeing the world, and their perspectives are all unique, and I think that's something to definitely take advantage of. But for the time being, I really want to just make sure that the people collaborating on the project are committed and we all get along, because that's what's going to make it so we get to the finish line.
Right.
That's important to me. So I think we're going to keep rolling with what we have. Are
you guys getting any funding? Or are you doing it like just to do it, or like how is that working?
This project I self-funded out of pocket.
Oh, nice.
Put down like a couple $1,000s for it.
Right.
Much of which went to paying some of the above the line and the location rental, which was fantastic. Funny enough, I was just doing a complete scan of all of LA, trying to find the right place to shoot this thing, and it happened to be about 50 yards behind my house in this little townhome, very quaint and very fitting for the story that I was telling. And the owners were fantastic, and we ended up renting the place and shooting the thing in 1 9-hour day. So it went well.
Is that like an Airbnb or like?
Yeah, but it was rented on this place called site called Room Rentals, I think is what it was, something like that. And it's essentially intended for film productions rather than residents.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so like someone, like a couple lives there full time, but they'll rent it out for a day for a production, and they'll just keep into the office, or they'll spend the whole day out of the house, sort of thing.
Right.
So essentially you own the space for like a brief time.
Is it set up any different than than any other house? Like, is there any lighting things or stuff like that? I'm just curious.
No. You're welcome to use natural light typically in those, like natural light and the lights that they have, like the fixtures that they have in the house.
Yeah.
As well as the various props can be included or taken away prior to shooting. So that was communicated with the homeowners. And it just happened when we saw the photos online, and it just happened to really fit the tone. Kind of a nice aged, quaint townhome. And it fit the bill, so we went with it.
Nice. Well, it looked great. What a great spot and a great crew. You working on anything else?
Yeah. Right now I am currently doing extensive rewrites on a comedy screenplay that I intend to submit to a screenwriting contest at the end of April, which is daunting, especially because the script is incredibly far-fetched and very kind of it's rather bold.
Right.
The material is extremely testy, and it isn't for the faint of heart. I compare it to something similar to, I don't want to say compare, that's not the right word. It's tonally consistent with like a Superbad.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
That's great.
And I mean, essentially, I can give you the brief synopsis if you want.
Yes, please.
So essentially, it's about one member of a group of 4 in a friend group that are in college, and one of the friends. His name is Brian. He kind of feels like a third wheel of sorts. The rest of his buddies are kind of like, they're smoking weed, drinking, partying. They have girlfriends on the side. They get along with most everyone. And Brian isn't really quite there yet. He's got some growing up to do. Lots of it, in fact. And so one day when he's trying to chat up this girl who's a waitress at a pizza place, his friends take note that he's just off the back and he needs to get with the program. So kind of the leader of the friend group, named Mikey, takes it upon himself to come up with a list of 7 maturity milestones for Brian to complete in order to essentially knight him an official adult, like an official mature man, like you're a man now, give him the rite of passage, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so he comes up with what he determines to be called the 7 deadly digits, which is the titular
Yep.
It's the title of the piece, actually. And those consist of various tasks to be completed by a certain time. And if doing so,
like a frat initiation?
So, essentially, it's like an initiation, but it's like a manhood initiation. And it's extremely over the top. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
But it seems logical at the time because Brian is such a straight arrow, button up dude.
What?
That, like, the things that he's asked to do for any normal person would be like, oh, I'll get a tattoo, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, I'll take an edible, no problem. But for him, these are like big shoes to fill.
So, right. That sounds really good. How many pages have you had? Are you at?
100 pages.
What?
100 pages.
100 pages? Dang.
100 pages.
Boy's been putting in the time.
Yeah, no, I've been like at this one since like about Christmas of this year. And it roughly translates to about a minute per page. So the runtime will be anywhere between 90 to 100 minutes, which is about an hour and a half, hour 45.
That's fantastic.
And I'm like very happy with it. There's some good one-liners, some good running jokes, and like the story at its core is quite heartfelt as well.
Right.
And I think it like speaks to a modern young adult audience.
Well, yeah, and I mean, we need more comedies because I feel like comedies have been really taking a hit lately.
Especially like old, like not I don't want to say old comedies. I mean like especially like 90s 2000s comedies, kind of again in that super bad kind of vein, Step Brothers vein, you know, the old like Adam McKay, Judd Apatow stuff. Like we need more of that. It seems like in my mind, not to kind of turn a little bit political, but I think that Hollywood and I mean mainly really the country itself has become like a little bit too sensitive to some of these topical ideas that come that are like, you know, talked about today. And I think that we're doing ourselves a disservice by not only bringing shame upon people who talk about them, but just outright ignoring it. Like it's going to become further and further taboo the more you ignore it.
If you can't laugh at it, then what the hell?
Exactly. It's really not that deep. People think all this stuff is like just rooted in something serious and something that needs to be shamed, and that's just not the case. And so I kind of want to bring that to light. Like if people would just take a breath. I mean, the amount of comedy films that I've seen that have like greatly boosted my mood and I've not taken offense to is like countless, you know?
Yeah.
It's like it's not it's a comedy. By definition, it is not to be taken seriously. It is a joke.
Yeah.
You know?
And no, exactly.
I just wish that was a little bit more kind of universally accepted. Unfortunately, it's not.
Well, the thing about comedies is somebody has to be the butt of the joke, and there's a handshake agreement that like if you'll be the butt of the joke, I'll be the butt of a joke. That's always pulled comedy in. But the thing is comedians also in comedies take this line that like, hey guys, it's not that deep. We need to like take a step back and like really put it in perspective. And if you're not allowing that to happen, then it just boils out of hand. And I think we're getting kind of there where everyone, instead of like laughing at it, is just getting canceled for saying all these things. But it is a very rich time for comedy. There is no lack of things to make fun of.
Yeah, exactly. That's absolutely the case as well. And it's nice to see that there seems to be a bit of a new generation and a new style of comedy coming in.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you're familiar with it's funny that we're talking about this popular podcaster on a podcast, but Shane Gillis.
Yep.
Shane Gillis is
I
this
love
guy
Shane.
that, like,
oh my God.
Everyone, like, I feel like everyone watches the hell out of Shane Gillis and doesn't admit to it.
Yeah.
I think I just find him hysterical.
Yeah.
And like I heard that he's coming out with this new show on Netflix in May that he self-funded It's like a comedy skit series essentially
Really?
called Tires. Yeah, you should look into it.
Yeah.
I know it's going to be hilarious. It's got him, and I think it's buddy Matt, I believe, is going to be in it, and then Andrew Schultz is going to be in it. Yeah, it'll be pretty cool, I think. Yeah, that's one to look forward to for sure.
Huh. A man inherits his father's auto repair chain and tries to turn it around despite torture from his cousins and now employee.
Yeah. So it's just going to be like a hilarious auto body shop.
That's fantastic. I'm so excited for this.
I'm very much looking forward to it. I think it's going to blow ratings out of the water. I mean, people are going to love it for sure.
Well, everyone's going to watch it and then be like, well, it's going to say some like really risky stuff and people are going to not admit that they watched it.
Oh, it's going to say some like on the nose, like knife twisting shit. And...
Exactly. Shane's bits are always so much like that. And then everyone kind of looks around while they're laughing. I love it. It's so fun. Yeah, I was showing my buddy Michael out here Shane's like live in Austin that you told me to watch, and I've shown a bunch of people that video.
It's fucking
and everyone's
so
like, dude, who is this guy? I love this guy.
Yeah, he's like everyone's favorite comedian now, and it's kind of like it's out of style already to have him as your favorite comedian, but I don't care. Like the dude's hilarious.
No, he's so good.
I mean,
how is your comedy career coming?
Not as well. We've talked about this briefly. Like I'm like considering coming up with like a 5-minute set, like a 10-minute set, maybe. It's hard, dude. Like it's one thing to
have
all the time and all the planning in the world to create like a comedic film or something.
Right.
When you have a set and like an environment to interact with at your disposal. But when you're on stage, fucking mic and a stool and an audience of people, okay, what are you gonna do? Entertain me. That is a really tough thing to do, and it's incredibly intimidating. And I don't even have to have done it already to admit that. So we'll see. I don't know. Nothing yet. The set hasn't come along yet.
Sam, you would be absolutely fantastic at stand up, and you need to do it. I'm going to continue to say that until it happens.
Yeah.
Because seeing you on stage giving a comedy bit would make me laugh. So just that, knowing you and having that happen would make me laugh. So it's already done.
I feel like maybe it'd be a little bit funnier for people that know me personally, just because they have like an experience with me to compare my stage presence to or something, which would maybe make it a little bit funnier. But for those that have never seen me, oh man, I'd be tail.
It would take a second. It would take a second for people to warm up to you, I think. But you have such an interesting and fun vocabulary that you like to use that like that alone like gets people like out of their comfort zone and they're like, okay.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to agree. I something tells me that maybe I'd strike a chord with some people. There's this comedy club in Burbank downtown called Flappers Comedy Club. It's like really well known. They have open mics occasionally, so that's just in the back of my mind, I guess.
Well, I mean, if you go to an open mic, you'll definitely not be the worst. That's almost always the answer.
Yeah, but like there's that kind of angel devil situation where the devil's like, well, what if you are the worst?
Well, from the wise
words, you get
words,
up there and you're panicking. You got the flop sweats, like.
Well, from the wise words of Joe Rogan, he says, "Failing is the best motivation." Just absolutely destroying, getting destroyed, and having the worst set of your life. Well, you'll be like, nothing can hurt me now. I just tried to be funny and I wasn't.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like getting booed off a stage might be the most humiliating experience you could ever have.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, maybe not, but like it's on that list for sure. Like it's up there with getting caught cheating if that's something that you do.
Right.
I don't.
No.
What,
Sam?
Yeah.
Pulling all the ladies. I don't know.
Oh yeah, no. That's another thing we could talk about. Lack of women in our lives. Let's jump aboard that.
Well, I got one. I don't know what you're talking about.
There you go. Yeah, you do. I don't. as per usual.
Sam's just too busy out there chasing his dreams for women.
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess that's like a nice cop-out excuse. You know, it's like, oh, I'm too busy, like, staying productive while you're screwing around. But I could do both at the same time, and I've tried. And, like, sometimes when I go to, like, a coffee shop, I'll notice an attractive woman walk in and sit down.
Right.
And, you know, she'll be, like, working on something for a while, and it's about time that I leave. And so I get up, and, like, now, thankfully, this was not the case, like, a year ago even. But, like, namely 2 years ago, I would have, like, serious anxiety about approaching women in any capacity. And now I'm, like nerve-wracking at times, especially if you've, like, put this narrative in your head from the very beginning that you're going to get fucking married or some shit. Like, it gets... You put all this unnecessary pressure on yourself, and I tend to do that, unfortunately. I'm trying to work past it, but...
If you can go up to women in public, then you can get on a comedy stage. Don't give me that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that means, but, like, it's not like anyone's recording it, or it's going to end up on TikTok or anything. Like, again, these are all narratives that you drum up in your head about what could happen, what could feasibly take place. But, like... back to approaching girls at coffee shops, which is apparently a new hobby of mine because it's happened so damn much with little results.
Dang, that's really how. Like, I feel like that's pretty safe.
So, I mean, wow, these women are just dropping the ball. It's terrible. Weirdly, what it is to me is, and in my case, it's actually been great because the responses that I've gotten haven't been like passive, get out of my face responses. They've been, oh, that's so flattering, it's so sweet of you, but I'm sorry to say, you know,
whatever the excuse
for why they
is.
can't.
Yeah.
Or they're genuinely like, I do have a boyfriend. And I mean, oftentimes I can tell. I know that I have a boyfriend is like, that's the old reliable of some of these women, which, like, you know,
it works.
Go ahead.
All
like,
right,
if you're not, I mean, you don't have to give me a whole novel about like no, you know, like no works.
Right. Yeah.
It's either no or I have a boyfriend, and like those are fine. Doesn't bother me. But yeah, just haven't struck gold yet, but keeping that.
You never know when the next
oar,
swing. Yeah,
know?
Exactly. I just see that like meme of them digging the holes and there's the diamonds at the end and he stops. You just can't stop swinging.
Hi-ho, it's home to work we go.
Well, that's a way better story than meeting on a dating app, which is where most people are finding people these days.
I mean, I've had plenty of nightmare situations with that as well that we don't need to get into.
Flagstaff?
Oh, Lord.
That's my favorite story.
I'll remain
it's a private story, yeah. Yeah. Oh, cracks me up.
You know both of them.
Yep.
That one's the lighter of the two, though, or at least the one that I put the least amount of like shame towards, I guess.
Right.
Or like the stakes weren't nearly as high, even though the decision was about level boneheaded wise.
Yeah, it didn't seem that boneheaded to me. I mean, that's a very much a decision that I would make.
Yeah, I mean, it was like and I do not take this as like an insulting remark.
I'm gonna be so insulted.
It was a bit of a Trevor move.
It was totally a Trevor move. Hey, you got to jump with both feet, buddy.
I mean, I did, and didn't stick the landing, unfortunately. But I had the most awkward screening of Spider-Man: No Way Home ever. Yeah.
Oh, it still cracks me up.
Anyway, this is totally out of context, so we should talk about something maybe a little bit more topical.
It's all in context, but
take some interest
we can talk a little bit about just scootering and action sports and the fact that like being okay, like not doing it as much, I think, because I think a lot of people are kind of going through that right now. And I don't know, we can talk kind of where the scooter industry is, because it's kind of in a weird spot right now too anyway.
Yeah.
Like, just the whole industry.
Certainly in a weird spot. And I think it's in that spot where people expected it to be further along than it is now. And I think the realization is becoming more and more apparent that it's extremely difficult to earn a living as a writer. And as much as I'd like that not to be the case, it's a truth that lots of people have had to swallow, myself included. And that's kind of another reason for my slow transition into the next phase of my life and my career, is that I've completely come to terms with not being a professional scooter rider, you know?
Right.
I mean, I've been fortunate enough to represent 4 great companies for years: AO Scooters, S1 Helmets, Olay Brand, shout out Jared Adelson, and
Jared.
Dynamic, who just celebrated its 9-year anniversary today, by the way.
Really?
Which is really great. So, like, you know, facts like that, like a scooter shop in downtown Denver, Colorado, a rather isolated state in the broader United States, celebrating 9 years of business, shows that scootering isn't like necessarily on the decline.
Yeah.
But we've reached a plateau period, it seems. And I think it's important that writers, young and old, recognize that.
Well, I think it's an innovation time, right? So I think right now where we're at is that people are bored of Instagram edits. People are bored of, like, just all the things that have been going on. There's been weird things with competitions. Nobody's like really
Contests
that hyped to
are
compete.
Crazy. Yeah.
There's not like that much clout with it. No one's like, there's no like Tony Hawks or Nija's or really anybody like that. Even like in the skateboard world right now, that is like really making it. And you're like, oh, I want to be that kid. Like nobody's like flexing the clout in a certain way, like to get kids really hyped on it. So what's happening is that, and then also people are just inside. They're just on their devices. Like, people are like, tech companies are doing a better time capturing everybody's attention, which is really scary. But I think that somebody needs to innovate, and the people who have found careers in scootering and in action sports, it hasn't really been that. It's been in content creation, or they started a company. That's like
a sister endeavor to scootering, essentially.
Yeah.
Like something that involves scootering to some degree. Yeah. Unless you're, employed or like a rider for like a large organization like Nitro Circus, like Ryan is. I mean, he just got on Monster. And that's another thing we could talk about is like potential. I mean, I know it's been beat over the head more times than anyone.
Even Jordan Clark is doing way more BMX now.
Yeah.
And maybe that's because there's more sponsors in it. I don't know what the thought is on that.
It's just there's more opportunity to build a life for yourself in it, whether people want to admit that or not,
Yeah.
And I mean, to some degree, I don't really blame them. When you're at the point where we are now, you're like, you got rent to pay, you got, if you have a family to provide for, by all means, get it done. And I mean, there were plenty of scooter riders at the beginning that seemed to kind of anticipate that. You got guys like Jeremy Malott who saw it almost 10 years ago now, that gravitated towards the BMX scene. But yeah, I mean, the thing that I'll always come back to in this conversation is that career or not, clout or not, best tricks in the world or not,
right,
or not, scootering is the most fun thing I've ever done. And I don't know if anything in terms of like a physical activity or like a thrill-seeking hobby of mine will ever eclipse it. I really don't think anything will. And that's the thing I keep latching onto is like, just go to the skate park and ride for yourself.
Yeah.
Music in. Don't film any clips. Make it known to everyone in your social circle that you're riding. Just go push around, release some endorphins, ride some rails, do some backflips, do some kicklesses, whatever you want to do.
Yep.
Have fun scootering, and I think that's a worthy endeavor.
Yeah, that's what it keeps coming back to, is I never scootered for money or a career or anything like that anyway. Like that was, I know you had a little bit more of those aspirations, but as far as I was concerned, like I just did it because I wanted, one, to build a community, and two, like I like the skate park stuff. I like the action sports stuff. I didn't like team sports. So I gravitated towards something a little bit more creative and a little bit almost more artistic, honestly, because I like to think of action sports as an art. It's like, hey, I'm looking at the world in a different way and using it to create. And then I use the scootering to like make more videos and make like editing stuff that I do on the side for art as well. So yeah, and the amount of time that I can just go and ride my scooter and be happy doing that, like that's worth it. So yeah, sure, like you can't really have, or it's hard to have like a career in it, which makes it hard for people to like really get into it. But there's always going to be that market, and they're only building more skate parks. So something's going to come of that. And the more people we can get there, the better off, I think.
Totally.
So.
And I mean, to piggyback off that, here's one thing that I'll always be really proud of when it comes to scootering. Like, it's one of those sports that is continuously dunked on by so many different walks of life. Whether you're a keyboard warrior, someone at the skate park, a passerby on the street, they're always going to mention how much of a goon you look like when you're on your scooter, right? And so when scooter riders have the commitment to the sport to keep at it for years, even decades, you know that they're in it because they love it and not because they want to be validated for doing it. And that's not said as a gotcha to people that are posers, or like, you know, that they skate because they think it's cool, or they're going to be accepted by their friends or whatever.
But no, there isn't that in scooter
riders are isn't. Pure. They are pure. Want to have fun and want to do something that challenges themselves and expresses who they are as an individual through something physical. And like you said, it's like, it is art, as cliche as that is. It's an expression. It's a way to navigate, you know, what you see around you, and it's your canvas. And I think that nothing can take that away, and that's absolutely the most valuable thing in scootering for me.
And it's such a lesson to be able to look at just everything differently, I think. And just, I don't care what you do. It's always been like, oh, well, what action sport should I do? Which is better? And it's like, whatever gets you to the skate park. I don't care.
Yeah. I never, when I started action sports, it was never about which one should I do. It was really like kind of a glass slipper situation where it was like, I was born to ride a bike, and I did that. And then I realized that I wasn't anymore. It was a very organic, like, my body's not built for this. I'm a little kid, you know. When I was like 12, I wasn't. Yeah,
because you had no lack of bikes in the house.
Yeah, no, I grew up in like, the mountain bike family, which was really great, and that kind of instilled that love for me at the start. But then the scootering came along very organically.
Right.
And I mean, I saw a couple of those viral "World's Craziest Scooter Tricks" videos on YouTube, and you know, I knew it was the perfect storm of like, kind of like the skate style tricks and the kind of the way you maneuver a bike, and that really hit with me. I can't believe that a device that Frankenstein's a bike and a scooter isn't like understood as fun as it is by way more people. You know, I guess it's really just because people don't want to be clowned on. So that goes to show the heart that scooter riders have. You know, it's one thing to point and laugh, but you know, like it's so much better to express yourself at the risk of being clowned on than to just clown on people without any way to express yourself.
Yeah, it is. Well, the only people who are clowning on you are people who don't understand and do it for, they just want to look cool and they want to validate themselves that they look cooler than you or something.
Or they have low self-esteem. And like, again, you know, that's not like a gotcha to anyone. It's really just like, I have a lot of sympathy for those people because there's obviously something in their head that just isn't right. It's not cued the right way.
Yeah.
Really, like that's the truth.
Well, it's such a satisfying thing to do. Like from just the entire time I've been doing it, it's just like how you catch tricks, how you're able to maneuver, like it's in between skateboarding and BMX in a way that like you have so many options and the creative potential. Like nobody rides their scooter the same as anybody else. And if you're trying to ride like somebody else, stop. Like just do what you want to do, because you'll come up with your own style. But there wasn't really a style. There wasn't really like ground for like, this is how you're supposed to do it. And everyone was just like, you know, pick it up and see what you can do. Come up with some stuff. So
I mean, how exciting was it? This was all brand new to everyone. You know, there wasn't like there wasn't a whole lot of that like forefatherage happened in scootering, really. You know, as many people would like to claim that they were like, you know, the founders of the sport, and like we appreciate that, but I feel like
I don't know. Shout out to Brian, like, whatever Brian's last name is, who the Bri flip is named after.
Oh, Brian Boston.
Brian Boston. Yeah, shout out to Brian Boston.
Like, yeah, like people like that are great, you know. But like it's not like we had any like Rodney Mullins or anything necessarily. Like I wouldn't want to compare anyone in scootering to Rodney Mullen.
No.
But I think that's good. We don't need that. Everyone can be their own innovator in scootering. That's how young and how much potential the sport has, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And it's been crazy for me to see how much it has changed BMX. Skating, not so much. I haven't seen that much influence from scootering in skateboarding. I could be wrong, but just from what I've seen, but I have seen a lot of influence in BMX. Like there's lots of scooter tricks that have been brought onto a bike. Thanks, Ryan.
Oh yeah. Like inverted tricks, Bri flips, kickless stuff. Like you could get the low-hanging fruit and talk about scooter tricks that have been translated to a bike, but there's also like style choices for sure, and like park maneuvers, rotations in flips, like 5 flares and 540 double flares that are now going down. And it was crazy to see the triple flare go down on a bike before a scooter. I was very surprised by that, but also super
and the fact
cool.
that no one's jumped Leon on a scooter yet is still
and I think
crazy.
Really massive drop, tons of impact, really no way to limit it other than speed and the proper flex of your knees, which has got to crush those things.
You got to go fast and then like anti-jump.
And
hope you make it.
Just like
suck up.
Like ski jumping, you know, ski jumpers like hover down the mountain. You got to be like as close to the stairs as possible to like reduce amplitude and then reduce the amount of
impact
bottoming out at the end of that thing. We'll see what happens. I mean, I think it'll be done.
And still, Jared was the closest one, I think, to getting it done.
Yeah, it seems that way. I mean, I think that is true. I mean, there have been a couple people that have tried tricking it.
I know. Eden. Well, I mean, I can't imagine just straight jumping it. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, if I'm going to do it, I might as well trick it.
Tricking it will provide you some sort of like.
Well, it'd be
like if you like chuck a bar spin down it or something, it'll keep you upright more or less. I'd probably bet on barring it, like straight hopping it.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, that's not something that I'm remotely prepared to do. No. So
that'd be like a year worth of impact training, and I still probably wouldn't be ready. I'd still destroy myself.
Oh yeah, even then though, it's just not something that really interests me.
No.
I mean, if I
Give
can
me a flat
transition
bar.
to another, you're right. No, exactly. Yeah. If I can transition to another topic about scootering that I think really needs to be highlighted, especially on Instagram.
Yeah.
Is that like I took a trip. I've taken many trips down memory lane, and people might find this to be like self-indulgent or whatever, but it really isn't.
We all do it.
I frequently find myself scrolling back through my clips constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean like years and years ago. And like you don't expect it to be, but sometimes you'll fall upon those clips and be like, wow, I remember that day and how hard that was for me. Or I remember that session with that homie that I've like kept in touch with since then. And like you can't help but get emotional looking at some of that stuff, especially when you've been doing it as long as people like us have.
Uh-huh.
Like man, like, and I see some of those clips, and just a year or two ago, I had kind of been that like, oh, what's my commemoration of my scootering career going to be? Am I ever going to get a sig deck? It'd be great to get a signature deck, but I mean, I don't feel like I'm deserving, or I don't feel like it's absolutely necessary either. Like when I look back on those memories and see the clips that I've compiled together, it's like 1,000 plus scootering memories on one little profile, and I'm like, this is what it was for.
Right.
And I'm not a person to get very proud of myself all the time. There are a few cases where I'm like, and looking back on my scootering career is absolutely one of those circumstances where I'm like, I'm proud of you, Sam. Like you set out to learn something that was totally out of your wheelhouse and subjected yourself to criticism from the get-go. You've been doing it for over a decade at a level I would have never dreamed of. And I've made some incredible friends and like just had so much fun doing it with no influence from anyone else. This was completely my thing, completely organic. Like I couldn't be prouder of what I've done in scootering. And I hope and I feel that many other people my age, older, younger, feel the same way.
Yeah, well, it's the same way for me because when I started scootering, it was like kind of my own thing because everything else that I did up to then, because I was like in a yo-yo club and we did Rubik's Cubes and we did, kendamas and all of that kind of stuff. And it was the first thing that like I wanted to do it, and I like created the group. So I brought everybody else in and like shared it and like got them into scootering, but it was like my thing that I started. And I think that that's kind of the difference where it's like I only ever did it because I wanted to do it. I didn't do it because it was an outside influence from somebody else. So the only person I had to prove was myself. Like I was like, how good can I get? And then I just never stopped showing up.
Exactly. Yeah, there's this meme on my meme page, Support Your Local Gas Station, that has this kind of like this famous in the skate community little like cartoon, and it's this kind of older kid, and he's got his arm around this younger kid, almost like headlocking him, it seems, and he goes, no one thinks you're cool, right, or something like that, and then I was like, oh wow, that's like a rather just kind of shitty thing to say, like a very negative cartoon. And so I just put a little speech bubble on the kid, and it says, no one rides scooters to be liked, right? And at the bottom there's a little caption that says, I do it because it's fun. And that's like scootering in a nutshell to me.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, I'll try to, I mean, I was definitely very cognizant to stay out of the way because of the reputation that scooters had at skate parks. So I did the most to not get in people's way, even if it was their fault. And I
etiquette's super important for sure.
Etiquette's important for everybody, but I think if you mess up as a scooter rider, like you're going to get more shit for it because especially when we were growing up, like it was just a more hostile environment. And it still kind of is that way, especially like depending on where you are. There's pockets in the country that are still kind of like that, but it's gotten a lot better. And I've made incredible friends throughout like all action sports and everything. So it's a great community, great place to be.
I've had like circumstances, like I'll give you an example of one with a kid that I became friends with in Durango who will remain nameless. And I remember he's like a really talented skateboarder, and I ended up showing up to the skate park after moving there to go to Fort Lewis College, and I was there like the first day I was there, and there was some clear animosity, like, oh boy, older kid, scooter rider, geez, this is gonna be bad. And like I would do a couple things and like fall, and then he'd snicker and just kind of like antagonize very subtly. And then like I wouldn't snake him. I feel like at that point I definitely had enough skate park etiquette and self-awareness to avoid any of those potentially problematic collisions or whatever.
Right.
But like maybe one like kind of got away from me, and I remember he kind of said something under his breath, and I remember like typically in the years past I would have just ignored it and kind of like felt bad about it and kind of victimized myself. But that time I just kind of like, I don't even want to say confronted him about it, because that sounds like a more of an aggressive way of putting it.
Right.
I kind of just like went up to him and had like a little conversation, just like, hey, that was clearly unintentional. I'd appreciate it if you kind of like treated me like a human though. And look, man, I'm just trying to like ride a scooter and have fun and tear it up just like you are. And it seemed to kind of like change the light in his eyes a little bit when I said that. And we became like first name basis friends after that moment, like almost immediately. It was really crazy. Like all it takes is a little like talk to you man to man.
Yeah.
Really quick. It's, again, this isn't one of those like gotcha situations. I'm not about like having dirt on people or anything like that.
Dunking on people, but, yeah.
Like why would you want to have an enemy, especially if that enemy is constructed in your head?
Yeah. Well,
that's kind of the way I see it.
I didn't really run into, there was always some weird stuff that happened at the skate park in Rapid when I was growing up. So like there's one time when we showed up, I was with my crew. So I think I was with Michael and Henry, and we were all showing up to the skate park, and we get there and there's like these kids there, and they like give us crap every once in a while, whatever. We just kind of blow it off. But this day they were like riled up for some reason. We walk in the skate park and they literally like look at us, come up to us. They're like, if you don't leave right now, we're going to kick your ass. It says no scooters. Like, we're going to like beat you up if you don't leave. Like, you can't be here. And there was some other dad there with his kid who, I don't know if he was on a scooter or something or what, but we would go out to the parking lot. We're like, we don't know what to do. This dad comes over and he's like, yeah, I'm going to call the cops on these kids. And so the cops show up, and we're like talking to him, and the cop kind of just looks at us all and goes, get along, and then leaves. I'm like, okay, I don't know what that's going to stop. But he didn't kick us out. He said we could be there. So that just a weird dynamic, because lots of skate parks were built to kind of say like no BMX, I think was kind of the idea, because they'd say scooters and rollerblades because they're scared of pegs destroying things, I think, and stuff. So it'd say scooters and rollerblades, or not scooters, skateboards and rollerblades. And so they would take that to mean that like no scooters, but anybody on the street doesn't really notice the difference, to be honest.
Right.
So that was a very interesting story growing up, as far as like it got bad some places. Like they were actually like confrontational. I mean, Venice is always confrontational.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I have more than a few memes about that place.
Good old Venice, the one skate park that stays true to just skateboarding. You got to go there at like crack of dawn in the morning. That's the only time I've been there. It's right away in the morning. But yeah, Sam,
exactly.
What is kind of your 5-year plan? What do you see coming up for yourself?
Ideally, I'll be working regularly in some capacity in the film industry. I guess it's important to know. I mean, I don't like speaking things into existence too early, and this is a rather left field opportunity that has potentially landed in my lap in the last couple days.
Ooh.
But I got a job offer. I was referred to become a full-time screenwriter for Darman Studios.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So, there was this girl who was a guest at the hotel that I met, and she ended up we ended up striking up a conversation about the industry, and became pretty quick friends. And she took a look at some of my things, and like a couple weeks later, she's like, "Hey, I work for Darman, like Changing Lives Productions, and there is an opening in screenwriter position, and I think you'd fit that." And so she referred me. I was reached out to by the studio, and I just submitted a 25-page script to them for consideration. And
wow, Sam.
if it works, yeah. If
You
it
won't have
works,
to work at the hotel anymore.
no hotel, and I'll be getting. If it works, I'll be doing okay. I should say that.
Making some pretty good coin. That's awesome,
Yeah.
man. Congratulations. That's how it works. I
Thanks.
mean, good job
I'm
talking to
hoping it
people.
works out. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like
that's the thing.
You've gotten pretty far in the process, which is super exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've pretty much made it to the final stage, it seems.
I mean, like, it's all about who you know, and you never know who's going to be in your court. So what a great place. I think that being at that hotel was a great move on your part, just because you kind of knew you were going to meet people when you were there.
I mean, I met producers, I've met actors, I met my cinematographer and editor, and then I met this connection who's potentially going to give me my next awesome job. And I mean, it's a great resource now. The hotel is like a close by, kind of safety net if I need it.
Right. Cool. And what hotel are you at again?
I encourage. It's the Marriott in Burbank.
The Marriott in Burbank, yeah.
Yeah.
We did not end up over there. I didn't see where you worked. I don't think. Did I?
No, we didn't go. No.
Okay, because I didn't even go by I don't even know where you live. I didn't even go by your apartment. So.
No, you went to my go-to writing spot.
Yep. Yeah, I know that was. We did that, and then we went to that pool hall, which was dope.
Yeah. And Burbank's a cool spot. Yeah, the Valley in California is like, for anyone looking to get into the world of content creation, whether it be narrative, scripted, film, TV, or, just maybe a little bit more on the commercial end of things, the Valley is a good spot. And like, I would pick it 10 times out of 10 over Hollywood, or even like, West LA.
I really liked the feel when I was there, actually.
Yeah. It's quiet. It's much more tame. It's not quite as cramped, not dirty and scummy. It's a little bit cleaner. So.
Right. Yeah, well, it's on my list, so maybe.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you.
We shall see what happens.
Yeah, thank you, Sam, for coming on the podcast again and kicking off season 4, getting us all ready. We touched some pretty fun topics today, and I like where this season.
Like a last question.
Yeah, go for it. All right. Yeah,
okay,
go for it.
I think that like you posed a lot of questions to me, and I've been talking a lot, which is good because I like to yap a little bit.
Well, I'm interviewing you, so that's how I expect it to go.
I mean, it's fun to make it like a little bit more like a conversation than an interview, though.
That's true.
I guess I've kind of been giving like weirdly interview-esque answers, which I don't know why I have. But like, I know a lot of these are like passionate topics of mine.
Right.
But like, I guess my question to you is like rather broad. I would just like to hear your thoughts on like reflecting on maybe the last decade or so of your life when you kind of had like a vision of how you would be growing up into your like adolescence, how you're feeling right now in this moment, and how you expect to feel in the future, in the relatively near future.
Right.
Start with the past, go to the present, look to the future.
Yeah, well, this is kind of how I always look at this kind of question is I am living every day and every moment for two people. And that is myself at 7 years old and myself at 70 years old, right? So I want to do things that, like, when I look back as a kid, or look forward as a kid, or look back when I'm on my deathbed, is kind of like, I'm proud I did that. I'm glad I did that instead of whatever other thing. And it's trying to find the balance between like long term and like short term, doing things now and preparing so that I can do things in the future as well. So it's trying to find that balance. But looking back, like I started a decade ago, would be about the time I got into scootering. I was probably skateboarding, doing a lot of skiing, and I was looking forward to be like, oh, I want to do something in action sports. I was never in the mindset that like I was going to go pro. That was never in my head. I was like, could I do it? Maybe. But like I've always seen myself more as like a leader or an administrative role or some sort of like, I wanted to work with the pros. I wanted to be there. I wanted to enjoy the sport, but really not have maybe the stress or the anxiety that comes with being the best and like putting your body on the line that much. So yeah, I started Scooter Antics. I started like making YouTube videos because I landed my first tail whip and I wanted people to see it. So I put it on YouTube. And there was another thing where I was probably in the right mindset for that as well, as far as I was just like, I want to do this for me. I want to do this because I want to keep like almost like a video record instead of like having a journal and writing in my journal. I wanted to have like a video journal. So that was kind of what my YouTube was. Got all my friends into scootering and looking back from like where I was then and where I wanted to be, I've kind of ended up on a little bit of a different path because I'm doing a lot more like government style work now than I ever thought I would. I'm a little bit more in an administrative role as far as like I'm working with legislators. I'm working with these big industries because my day job is communications and marketing for the Trucking and Auto Dealers Association, for all those who don't know. And I like will go in, and I did some lobbying this last session, and I think that I would be really proud of myself from a kid's perspective because I've accomplished most of the goals that I ever had in scootering. I want to still do some sort of video part or some sort of long form video. I have a little bit of a different idea for what I'm going to do for that instead of just a riding part, but we'll work on that. But yeah, I just feel like it's been a good ride. I've made incredible friends who are really, really there for me and help out. And, you know, went to Woodward, which was always the biggest dream with the Camp Woodward shows, always watching those growing up and wanting to do that more than anything. And my mom said, hey, I'm not going to pay for you to break your arm. I'm not going to pay for you to break your leg. Go get a job there when you're older. And I said, screw you, Mom. I'm going to go do that then. And then I applied, got the job out there. And at 18, I was driving myself out to California to go work at Woodward because I was like, I'm doing this. She was like, I can't believe I'm letting you do this. I was like, this is the agreement. My dad agreed once I learned to ride a bike that I would get a motorcycle, and I never got that. So I'm holding him to that. He's not going to live that down. He denies the fact that he ever said that, but I remember. I was like 7. But looking as of like now, like presently, it's been a lot like different, I think, because as you grow up and as I get out of like the college stage and I get out of like the kid mindset and you start seeing your friends like get married and have kids and get real jobs and buy houses and start businesses, like you're like looking a little bit more long term and you're like, okay, how do I set up my life for the potential like kid or family or whatever I'm going to have in the future? Because I do want that. And it's like I need to like take a little bit more responsibility in myself and like preparing for that while also like still chasing my dreams and not letting like that vision die. So it's like I'm trying to find the balance. It's always been about balance. My mom has always pushed that into me. It's like, where's the balance, right? And I'm not good about it. Not terrible. Like I have a laser focus on one thing, ADHD moment, laser focus on something else has always been kind of how I've operated. So I've gotten better about that, tried to read more books, tried to just like get more into philosophy. And I see myself kind of, you know, hopping around here and there, trying out some new places. There's like, I want to be in a bigger place. I want to be in a bigger city. I want to have a little bit more opportunity to like try some different things that I could do. And along all of this, I'm going to be doing action sports things. I have really been getting into surfing lately. I've really been like wanting to ski. I go to the skate park whenever I can. We're getting a new skate park here in Sioux Falls, and I'm absolutely stoked for it. As long as I get it done, which there's some whisper in the community about them allocating those funds wrong, and you know the board of or the city council might be getting a word from me, so we'll see. But either way, I kind of see like myself setting up a little bit more for a longer future and like making sure I'm investing right and putting money away and all that, but not too much, because I still like to take those trips and go and visit all my friends and figure out how I can do that. So it's like, how can I create while also preparing for the long term while also enjoying where I am right now. So it's a big balancing act between all those things. And yeah, I've just been trying to figure that out. But then, yeah, in the future, it's going to be like 10 years from now, it'll be my kids. It'll be like my family. Hopefully I'll be somewhere around there, and then I will like laser focus on that. And like, I want to be able to give my kids the same thing that my parents gave me. And they were always down to like help me out, start my businesses, give me funds to like start like this podcast and stuff. Like, they help me out with all this equipment and just like give me those kind of opportunities to build. And I want to do the same exact thing for my kids. So it's all about just like having the right people in your corner to be able to do that the right way. And another thing I want to touch on is just the fact that all you hear is like, oh, you're lonely at the top. There's only 2 seats in a Bugatti, like those kind of bullshit things. But I think that like that's completely bullshit. And the fact that we can climb together, like you have to stand on the shoulders of giants, but like you have to like be there with your friends. Like we can all come up together, and there's plenty of room for everybody at the top. So I think that people in your network and all the people that you can use each other's strengths and take over each other's weaknesses, then you can have a bus Bugatti. I don't fucking know, but we can have the private jet. Those have more than fucking 1-2 seats. You know, I wouldn't want to be driving anyway. So I'm hoping we can all get to the top together. That's kind of my thought, but I don't know if I answered your question, but there's my life philosophy.
I think you totally did. You hit all 3 rungs of that.
I did try to hit in-depth. Past, good. Present, and future. So yeah. Which cool. You want to extend on any of that, or give you any of your philosophies?
I mean, my response to that is, I mean, I hold like a very similar perspective to you. I'd say like when it comes to the family concept, that may be a little further down the line for me.
Yeah.
If at all. I just don't know yet. Like, that's not real. Let's just put it this way. I don't see that light at the end of the tunnel yet.
Right.
I mean, what I see directly in front of me is the career that I absolutely must create for myself. If there's no other option, it's film or nothing, and I'll die before I make it in the film industry.
Well, I'm not even saying the fact that like that's what my plan is. It's just like if I look 10 years ago and I look 10 years in the future.
No, exactly.
Like, who knows if it's going to happen, but like I want to be ready if it does.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel the same way. I'm prepared for something like that, but I'm not going to go out of my way to start, raising.
Yeah, don't do that. That only ends in divorce. So
for a number of years, likely.
Yeah.
The career is hands down the priority.
Yeah.
At the moment.
Well, talk a little bit.
I think it's
Talk a little bit about like your family situation growing up, because you had a different perspective than I did, definitely, because both your parents were like, I don't know if they were still sponsored athletes, but there was a lot of sponsorship in the family, as far as like, that's something that I never grew up with. And I think it gives you a unique perspective on like, you were like, oh, if I can't like afford to buy this, like, or should I even buy this? I can probably just get a partnership with this company to get what I want, which I thought was really a cool perspective that I never had. And you gave me like some insight to be like, let me reach out to these companies and see if they have anything like that.
Yeah. That's sort of like the one caveat with my family is, my dad was still like a professional mountain bike racer for a number of years after I was born. My mom kind of took a bit of a, motherhood role, obviously managing the 3 of us. But like, when it comes to like what they instilled with me in terms of value, I think is pretty important. Like, we were not raised to be like materialistic people whose value was measured by things or stuff, as they would call it. And if there was something you wanted, there was likely a way to get it by means of something that we already had. So like, and I mean, that's not to devalue the thing that we wanted at all, but like an example would be like, oh, I wanted a dirt jumper bike or something. Oh, Sam, we have a kind of like a Frankenstein of parts in the garage. Go build one up. Be resourceful. Use the skills that we've taught you to be resourceful and build one up and take it out to the track. Instead of hopping on Amazon or going down to the bike shop and putting down $800, $900 on a brand new dirt jumper, we had what we needed at our disposal thanks to the career of our parents. And I think that's probably the best example I have of my upbringing being a little different than other people's.
Yeah. Well, you were thrown directly into that world.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was very much like very action sports. Let's get outside. Let's ride bikes together. I'm sure that was like your family activities were.
Yeah. I mean, there was not a whole lot of like planning to do nothing in my family.
No.
It was planning to go to this country and bring a bunch of our outdoor gear and do this, tons of camping, which like at those times, like, 14ers, camping trips, road trips, random destinations that I had no idea about until we got there.
Right.
Like in hindsight were like some of the most like, forming moments of my life. But at the time I was like kind of like the Debbie Downer complainer. Why can't I do something normal? Whenever that happened, I'd be like, oh man, I don't want to go to Hurricane, Utah. This is ridiculous. Oh, what? We're going to the Smithsonian in
Sam
Washington,
complaining?
DC
No.
like, and like those things are like they're very privileged opportunities that in hindsight, I'm like, I'm glad because there were silver linings in it. Like each time I would complain about doing those things, but in the back of my head, I was like, I'll take that forward with me.
Yeah.
There will be something that I can attribute like a moment or multiple moments in my future to that experience.
Right.
And that's like priceless. You can't get that any other way.
Those kind of trips that I did with my dad or my family that we would go like and just explore, I think like instilled a lot in me more than like the Disneyland trips were fun and the Hawaii trips were fun, but like they were really relaxing because my parents just needed a break from work. But the trips where we like did mountain bike trips or we went up to, where was it? Winter Park during the summer and went downhilling. And then we'd go to the skate park the entire time. And like, or we'd go on those little road trips with my dad to go scooter at skate parks, just like within 2 hours of us. Like those kind of trips really like were the most exciting for me. And they weren't the biggest or like the grandest by any means, but they just like were very much like opened my eyes to like what you could do and all the things that like, I like to work hard, play hard. So when I'm playing, let's go. Right. Most of my vacations require a vacation.
Yeah.
And I know every time I see you, we're packing in as many possible things into every hour that we possibly can.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I think subconsciously we can attribute that to our folks, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, like the day that we've had multiple best day evers, I would say. Like, there have been quite a few of those. I mean, most namely is the one from like Fort Collins to Denver that day when we went and saw Joker that evening.
Yeah, the Joker
day.
I
mean, that was just the cherry on top. It was really great. Like, that day was just fantastic through and through because we hit so many different parks, went to a couple restaurants, linked up with some other friends, kind of had some spontaneous conversations with people.
And we didn't know each other that well either at that time.
Yeah, we were still kind of like feeling one another out in terms of like, are you a homie? Like, is there like, long-term camaraderie here?
Yeah.
And there ended up being that, which is great. And I think like, like taking that chance is something that people that have different parents to ours would not have had.
No, absolutely not. Like it's the spontaneity, like you have to have a little bit of that. I have a lot, but like it's something that you just need to like roll with. And I think that if you don't have that, like at the same time, like lots of things are just going to bother you because things don't go to plan more than they do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so you have to be like willing to compromise and like just go with the flow a little bit, because what I've learned throughout my life is that like plan A is typically like gonna happen, but like not typically the way you want it to. There's gonna be some roadblocks and some bumps in the road and some things that you didn't account for, and like it's just how it is. Just how it is.
Yeah. I mean, you might as well embrace the possibility of things falling apart or not going the way that you want them to. Like,
but that doesn't
I
mean
know
it's
that there's
bad.
that phrase that
that's
right,
the
exactly.
thing is everyone's like, oh, that if it doesn't go the way I want it to, it's bad. It's like, no.
Find something like positive in it. I know that's some like wooden beads thing to say, but it is true. You know,
Straight
like
astrology, horoscope shit.
Yeah, that's some astrology, like horoscopic, like crystal ball stuff to say.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is very true. And yeah, I mean, I'm so glad that my parents instilled that, like, it's okay.
Right.
All it takes is like the assurance that it's not the end of the world.
Right.
Like things are only as bad, to an extent. Things are only as bad as you make them or as you allow them to be. You know,
right.
Like an attitude adjustment is oftentimes all that's needed for you to just move on with your life and be happy.
Yeah.
For
well,
like
I think
a multitude of different scenarios.
I think people who don't have like some sort of stability in their life struggle with that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think if your parents or parent or whoever, there's somebody who's really stable, like that you always feel like you can go back to, like you're willing to take more of those risks and more of those jumps and like be more like go with the flow. Cause like,
yeah,
you always know you're going to be okay. And I think that like,
right.
I feel bad for some people who like, they don't have that stable household, you know? And it's like,
yeah,
it's hard. I understand how it's harder to like,
oh yeah, it's definitely,
that
it's
way.
absolutely harder. And I think like another thing that I can attribute to it being harder is like, I heard this quote not too long ago on another podcast that said, if all your problems can be solved with money, you don't have problems, which is completely true when you really think about it.
Yeah. And all the people who have lots of like money and can like buy all the things they want have not committed enough time to relations. Yeah, have countless
they also
problems.
have countless problems. And and so do people that are impoverished, unfortunately, you know,
right.
Like there are drug addiction problems, mental health problems, and things like that aren't, you know, fixed by a transaction.
But yeah, but it's not, if you're screwed up and you think that money is going to solve that problem, typically it's not. You're either a happy person
mm-hmm.
who gets money and is happier, or you're an unhappy person who gets money and is still unhappy.
Yeah.
Like there's something to be said that like, if you're unhappy, like that doesn't mean that like, it can make you very unhappy to not have money. Let's just put it that way. But if once ever, like $90,000 a year is about the threshold for how much money will do for you. That's what I heard once. It's like once you get more than that, it's like that's all you need to like buy food and like provide for your family and all that kind of stuff.
At that point, what else do you absolutely need? What else do you require in your life? For some simpleton like me who just pinches pennies left and right, you need nothing else. Like,
see, I would complain more, Sam, about your way of spending money, but you're also a very happy dude, so there's no reason to.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Like, I got to be doing something right if that's the case.
Yeah.
And
as long as those
like
fast food transactions don't make you unhappy in
they don't,
different ways.
Or they don't catch up to me by the time I'm like 30 or whatever, and I'm a little bit gordo. That would not be great. But I don't think that's going to happen, and I mean, the things that I spend money on are experiences, very basic necessities like rent, utilities, healthy food.
And investing in yourself.
And investing in myself, like when it comes to things that I like I tend to shirk at times on some things, but things like the very laptop that we're listening to each other on right now, on my end, was something that was recommended by you, and I kind of like, got all the bells and whistles included because I figured that it would be necessary for what I was trying to tackle, and it totally has been.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I have now,
Well, and like you saved all the money kind of to do the like screenplay type thing that you did, like the movie that you shot and you covered yourself. Like that's what I'm talking about. Like that's investing in like kind of your business. That's
investing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
In yourself, in your business, and then the computer as well. Like exactly. It's like you can use that to make more money, and like it's a good investment just in general. It's not like
totally
you're buying expensive food or clout based items.
Yeah.
Fancy clothes.
Yep.
Like me. No.
Right. I mean, like I still have like fashionable things to wear and whatnot, but I just choose not to express myself that way as much.
No.
I think like probably the biggest leg up on other people I have, and it's gonna sound also like very podcasty and like inspiring, man, but like
leads to great Instagram clips.
My like the ultimate goal of mine, if I could really nail it down to something like an idea, is to tell stories to as many people as are willing to watch and listen to them that will outlast me.
Right.
Simply put, that's really it. I just want my work to outlast me. I don't want my face to be the thing that everyone remembers. I don't want, necessarily how baller of a scooter rider I was. I want things that I write down and translate to the screen to be the thing that outlasts me. And other people want to be known for being rich, want to be known for being famous, being the prettiest, this and that. And like that is not only an extremely subjective to the point of mentally like overwhelming idea that you can't really like compute that. Mine, and I'm not set at a number. As long as people's lives are impacted when I'm gone by what I had to say, we're good.
There's a uniquely human thing about that because there's lots of this rise in AI stuff, right? And an emotion that you feel through a work of art, like a movie or a song or just normal art in general or a book, like all that kind of storytelling stuff is uniquely human. And there's no reason that we do it. It's not like better on paper. It's another one of those things where it's like we do it because it is what we are as humans. Like that is being human.
We're like storytellers. Humans are storytellers, like bottom line, seems to me.
Telling a story doesn't feed you. It doesn't like all those other things. Like I don't think a machine or like an algorithm, like sure it'll be able to come up with stuff based on other things that have been written, but it won't be able to develop that feel, that like emotion that you get from when you hear it from an actual person. So I'm not too worried about creative fields because it is uniquely human and people want that imperfect perfectism.
I think that is actually a really great way of looking at it. And I hadn't really considered, I mean, I sort of considered it that way with the whole, like, everyone wants to see something created by a human because you want something to connect it to, like an umbilical cord to the work. But yeah, with the whole like relating to another human doing it, I hadn't really considered that, and that's actually a really smart takeaway.
Well, it's like you kind of have, like, you don't necessarily have to ride a scooter to appreciate scootering, but like a song, even if it's just the music, everybody can relate to that. And even if they aren't a musician, even if they have no desire of knowing anything about music, there's something that musical tones does to your brain that is just human. And
I mean, everyone has music in them. That's what and I mean, whether it's as like a performer or a listener, that remains to be determined. But like, it's ingrained in our DNA now. Because of how many like generations of music there have been. It's like stood the test of time. better than pretty much any other human behavior out there. And
which is so
the
bizarre.
same
Like
goes
that
for
and
storytelling.
dance.
Storytelling is like eons old.
Right.
Story in literally everything. Every single thing has a beginning, middle, and end. And like, I don't know what is more important than that. I can't think of a single thing that's more important than that to me, at least. So.
No, I don't think there is. Like, that's the story is why we're all here.
It's why we do anything.
It's why we do anything is to
yeah.
We're living our own story, right? And we're getting real podcasty here. But
this is podcasty as hell, but it's very true as well. And I think
I'm just saying, like, my next comment as far as realizing like that everybody else has the exact same sense of themselves that you do, as far as like they're living their own story and you don't know what that is. So their role might be small in your life, but in their life they are the main character. So it's like you really have to appreciate that and understand that that's what everyone's relating to.
Yep.
And that you have no idea what their story is, and you can't.
Yeah. to like really indulge in like the whole like narrative wordplay that we've gone on here, like with the whole main character thing. You also don't know what a person's conflict is. Like on the surface, it might be, like this person wants to go to a D1 school and become a professional NFL player. Say that that's what they voice as their goal, as their ultimate, the conflict that they're confronted with. But the conflict that they're actually confronted with, and they know it's the conflict they're confronted with, is contending with an unsupportive family and a dream that they know is slipping away, potentially, right? So, like, on paper, all you see is them at practice throwing the ball around, and you're like, yep, wants to become a pro football player. But you don't see here and here. And again, like, I know that's super...
Well, you can get really in the weeds with that, because my mom was an early childhood education major, and she worked as a preschool teacher.
Yeah.
And a lot of those things that you see people developing into, like, you can see in them at 3, right? At 2 or 3, you can see those, like, those first few years of your life are like, right now, like, I've lived 24 years, so my memories span 24 years. But if you're 3 years old, your memories span 3 years. So you have a lot more space for every possible moment of every day. And so everything is a big deal. And the worst thing that happened to you is the worst thing that happened to you. But it's kind of like, simple things, if your mom didn't come and like feed you when you were crying, or didn't get attended to when you were like throwing a fit, and all those kind of things, if like your parent wasn't there for you, a lot of those stem into bigger issues that maybe stem into that conflict that they're dealing with. Like, oh, I need to do this to like show that I'm more important than my other sibling. Like, that could not be what they're telling themselves. They have no idea that that's what they're doing, but it's based on subconscious thoughts that they had when they were 3. So yeah, put your kids in preschool, please.
It's just subconscious cause and effect. That's what it is. And you have no control over what it is. If you fail to do something or do something the wrong way, whatever the case is. And I learned like a ton about that in a class that for some reason just stuck with me in high school, where many didn't. I took psychology 100, like basic bare bones psychology, and they was just hammered down our throats how important those first 3 years are. Especially like the first year, between 0 and 1, dude. Like, the interaction you have to have, your brain is at an extremely delicate stage. And so like attachment's a super important thing that needs to be made clear from the get-go. And your communication is very limited. So where no attention comes, there's nothing for you to grab onto, literally. So,
right. Do you need to eat? Do you need to sleep? Or do you need to shit? And you need to be on top of all three of those at all times as a parent. Like,
exactly.
And it's hard.
Exactly.
I mean,
thankfully my parents were, and it looks like your parents were as well. So.
Yeah.
Lucky
well,
us.
The problem is that, like, a lot of people, they're just like, their parents probably shouldn't have been parents, or like something happened and they were young and they didn't have time to like really give the kid what they needed. But it's like, it sucks that they have to deal with that. And that's why you end up with lots of people staying in the same like circles that their parents were in as far as like what they're doing, because they're the role models at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. So you end up kind of staying in the same kind of court, or maybe like whatever, as your parents. So, but
or maybe your parents encouraged you to go out of their box, or out of your own box, in turn their box, which sounds overtly sexual. I didn't mean it that way. Oh man, there's a soundbite for Instagram.
Yeah.
But it's totally true though. Like, in all seriousness, it's so important to have belief and trust in young people. And such an important thing for me, is for parents to trust in the intuitions of their kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like this, like there's a line between being supportive and being overbearing.
Yep.
And it's pretty thin. It's tough to walk, but take a little bit of an observational role in someone's life who you've helped bring up, and you will be rewarded in spades with how well they do. And I really believe that I am an example of that, especially in the last year or so with my parents.
Well, yeah, you've really like matured a lot in the time that I've known you, as far as like, just taking on challenges and like being able to put yourself out there and all those kind of things. And it's kind of like, you gotta, like, for kids or anybody else that you're like your friends, it doesn't really matter. Be there when they need somebody to help push them, but then like take a step back at a certain point. Like, you can't hold people's hand, but you also like they need to feel like they have something to fall back on to really take those risks. So
be there, and assure them, but don't coddle them.
Yeah.
And don't
There's been a lot of coddling,
validate them.
Yeah, lots of coddling.
Constantly validate them.
Let your kids get hurt.
Let them fall and let them stand themselves back up.
You don't have to let them stand themselves back up, but you have to show them, like,
show them that they can. Show them that they can choose to do that,
and that it's okay. Because like my parents were always like, I wasn't a crier, like in the way that like I'd fall and my dad would be like, "No, you're okay," and I'd be like, "Yeah, I am okay."
Oh, I am. I am okay. Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Right, exactly.
Like, check. Yeah. Nothing's hurt. I'm okay. Like, just because I fell doesn't mean there's a problem, right?
Like if
that transfers to everything.
If a parent has like some sort of like panicked response to you falling, you don't know any better, so you're gonna feel panicked too, based on what you see, based on how you react to them. And so my parents were good about that too. Like, I was fucking dropped down the stairs and shit, dude. And my mom was like, "Oops." Just, well,
is anything broken?
Let's scoop you guys up. Like, my brother and I just kind of, "Oh, you're okay. You're good." Rub some dirt on it. Yeah. And like, damn, I'm so glad they were like that, dude. Because like, I've become so much more hard-headed, and I've had like kind of broader shoulders, figuratively.
And I think people are like really emotional. Like, everybody seems to be really emotional and really like everything is the end of the world. They get angry all the time. Like, why? That's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot of energy.
It's a lot of energy. Like, I can't imagine. Like, some people are just always pissed off, and I just don't understand how you can be.
I can't. I can't do that. I used to be like that. I used to be a big keyboard warrior, actually, believe it or not.
Yeah.
I used to be like commenting and putting in my 2 cents on everything I saw on the internet. That's
what the creative word choice is from, isn't it?
I mean, maybe to some degree. So I guess there's a silver lining to all that. But like, at one point, there came a time where I was like, I don't need to do this anymore, because all of it was serious. It wasn't like taking the piss or anything like that. It was me commenting something serious in a way that brought someone or something else down, because I probably felt that way about myself at the time. And now, if I'm bringing something down or like criticizing something, it's almost always going to be in either a constructive manner or like a humorous, not to be taken seriously manner. Like my meme page, for example.
Which is done really well, like, and people love that. Good work, Sam.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's done. Yeah, it's done pretty well for sure. And like, I like being sort of a social beacon. That's not the right word, but like a social sort of telltale of the scootering world, I guess, you know, like that's sort of what the page is. Like, it tells scootering story in a very non-traditional way. Like, you'll find any random part on the grid and you'll be like, that era, that's right.
Well, it's very unique in the way that like even other meme pages that I follow don't do the format that you do, because of just your extensive knowledge of movie clips.
The movie clips is definitely like a leg up for sure.
Yeah.
But then I also like try and branch out a little bit and do like those little like a photo, and then I put text over it for like a little question prompt.
Yeah.
And people respond in like really cool ways to those, which is great, and that's like a lot of kind of camaraderie within the industry.
You were really on the forefront of that, because like everybody's kind of doing that now.
Yeah. And I mean, I like to do it in a little bit more of a formal way.
Yeah.
Other folks do. Like, I don't really want to put like a TikTok song in the background of it while like a video plays that's somewhat unrelated. Like, that's a thing that like definitely hits with audiences, and there's a reason that people do it. But for mine, it's like, stop what you're doing and tell me a story about scootering. Or, what are your thoughts on this? Because you have a voice in this community too.
Right.
That's kind of like the idea that I have. It's like the subtext of the question being asked. It's like, give me your thoughts because they're valued, I guess.
There's a deeper meaning to it all. And
yeah.
And that's what's great, and that's why people are drawn to it so much, I think, because the comments that you get on those posts aren't just like someone tagging somebody else or like a small little thing. Like, it is like paragraphs of like prominent scooter riders. Like,
from prominent, there's conversation happening. Like, there's lots of dialogue getting exchanged between, you know, young and old. Like, even it's crazy. Like, the passion in the scooter industry is so strong that, you know, you'll have a thread on one of those posts that has like a prominent scooter rider, and then like a kid that really looks up to that prominent scooter rider responding, and then that prominent scooter rider responding to the kid. And it's like, that's the kind of thing that we need more of. And ever since I saw that in that one of the first few question posts that I put up, I'm like, this is going to become a traditional part of the meme page, as well as the movie clips, which I also like.
Right.
So,
no, those have all done really good. And even the movie clips are like way deeper than like most memes are.
A lot of them are kind of like, again, like going back to the negativity thing, or like turning it into positivity. I mean, a lot of the memes nowadays are like very like complimentary of people, and you know, they're complimentative, I guess would be the right word. And like they praise things in scootering, because we can all laugh about something that's funny because it's good.
Right.
You know, kind of like whenever you see a really good scooter rider, you're like, fucking asshole's way too good at scootering. What an idiot. You know, like, and like everyone's going to laugh, including the kid that you're calling out for being too good at scootering. You know, like, look at him. He's talented, you know?
Like Jack Walsh.
Who's the victim there? Jack Walsh, like, the perfect example of someone that I, like, essentially, like, just like he's become a huge topic on my meme page just because he's like an absolute monster of a scooter rider at like 15
and he's got
years
such
old.
good style. Like,
and he's extremely versatile. He does all types of different scootering really consistently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You weren't there when they filmed that video.
He'd be a good guest on the podcast, by the way.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just saying, that'd be pretty cool. I bet he'd be willing to chat for a bit.
You weren't at that filming of whatever that Olay video was with him and Jordan, were you?
No, wasn't. But that was like a couple days before I went to Woodward with kind of a few of those boys, Jared and Mateo, Tanner Fox, Carson Miller, and a few others, Vincent Kudrina.
You spent some time hanging out with Tanner too, by the way. I want you to. How is he doing? Because he's kind of disappeared from the scene, and like everybody that's probably listening to this group watching his videos. So.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really. I mean, I from what I got from him, like super nice kid. Someone who I didn't really want to, and I didn't really have any like perceptions of how it would be. I just knew that I had watched him for years, so it kind of felt like he was some minor celebrity when I was meeting him for the first time. But I tried to like take that away and like just a kid. You know, he's someone who's not much older than I am, has a passion for scootering, and he's super chill. You know, like doesn't at all change his persona or anything like that. Given the fact that he's extremely successful and very prominent, like. That's out the window when you're riding with him, and I think that's something to be praised for sure. And like you know, like people that have really blown up in the public eye. Not only is that a massive undertaking, but being expected to sustain the content creation that you had embarked on all those years ago is such a burden, and like. I fully respect completely taking your foot off the gas pedal, or better yet, even touching on the brakes a little bit, like it seems he has. I mean, I don't want to speak too far into it just because I don't know the full story, but super cool kid, and I have a feeling we're probably going to be keeping in touch, so it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, he's a very, he has a unique story, and he again was one of the first that blew up in scootering, him and like Coda, who his Coda's story too, like how he ended up in Dubai, like wild,
yeah,
absolutely
very
insane.
wild.
And now he has like a business or two out there and doing all the crypto stuff,
building like beachside skate parks. I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, I haven't interacted with him. I've only seen him. I saw him at Havasu 2 Octobers ago for ISF.
Really?
And that was an interesting experience. He was doing his signature Coda pose. It was great. He had like camouflage pants on. His legs were spread wide, and he had like the Luke Skywalker crossed arms. It was great.
Classic.
Yeah, Coda's a man for sure. A lot of. It's crazy that like people in scootering are like in any walk of life now, like you know, Conor McGregor just did Roadhouse as an actor. Like these people that are in like action sports, combat sports are like becoming public figures in a huge way. It's pretty wild, man. Like Tanner's a good example of that.
Yeah, he's been doing a lot with like F1 and Formula E, and like Tanner's been involved in the car stuff a lot, which is cool. Because like Adam LZ got really into that. I think they might have been friends, probably.
At one point at least.
Yeah,
it's cool.
And, like all the car stuff. But yeah, I have thoroughly enjoyed watching where everybody goes. And I've been really interested in what Clayton Lindley's been doing recently too, because he started his media company.
A lot of video stuff. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So it's been cool to see where everybody goes and all the people that like I used to either watch their videos or ride with or talk to about scootering or whatever. I mean, even being from middle of nowhere in the Midwest, as far away from, you know, organized scootering as possible. Like I became friends with a lot of these people anyway. So,
I mean, I think like I'll I don't want to speak for you, but I think that definitely speaks to the like how impressive it is that you've been able to get your name out there and make a name for yourself living in such an isolated area like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess somewhat can be said for myself as well, living in like Gunnison, Colorado. Like, come on, dude.
You weren't
That's
really
like the
much
last
closer.
place in the
Yeah.
world. That's the last place in the world you'd expect someone to start scootering when no one else did. Same with Rapid City, no one else was scootering, and then you and Ty started up, and
yep, started the
crazy.
YouTube channel and all that kind of stuff, and that was the biggest thing for me, which I want to get back into doing some sort of something like that. So, well, this is kind of partially that too, more content creation, and just like when I would go to Woodward or I'd go to a skate park and people would be like, "Oh yeah, like I recognize you. You're a YouTuber. Like I started scootering when I started watching your videos." Nothing else feels better than that.
That's a pretty dang cool. Yeah,
it's and I'm really, really happy I got to have that experience. And like when I went to Woodward the first time in 2018, a lot of those kids are like, "Yeah, I grew up watching your videos, and like I started scootering and learned all these things from your videos. Can you sign my whatever?" And I had to go find a Sharpie and like sign all these kids' stuff, and that was just like such a cool experience. And just like having that like appreciation, like you don't get it that often. So it's just that was really cool.
Putting smiles on faces, like what's better than that? That's like all anyone wants to do. So
yeah,
that's super great. And then I think there's one last thing I want to touch on in terms of the scootering thing.
Yeah.
And that is, I think it's really great that scootering has grown to embrace moving on from the sport for a lot of these people. Like, Clayton would be a good example of someone who is pretty clearly not like a pro competing scooter rider anymore, and kind of like it's a hobby still, and it just happens to be a really experienced hobby of his, like something that he's really good at. But the film is how he makes his money, and it's another passion of his. And like, you know, people aren't like, no, go back to Undial, do this, do that. Like that would have probably been the case like 6, 8, 10 years ago. But now, like people get it, and they also trust in these riders that they were so committed to the sport that they're never really gonna leave.
Well, I don't think there's any reason to.
No,
nobody did it in the beginning for any reason other than the fact that they wanted to do it.
Yep, and with any expectation that there would be a time when they wouldn't do it.
Like, yeah. A lot of these people took breaks and you wouldn't see them posting about scootering or anything like that, but you still knew damn well they were going to the skate park with their friends or riding somewhere.
Like Ben Thomas, another good example. Like Ben Thomas, Jared Colwell, those guys from like Australia, like they're still some of the best scooter riders in the world. And that's because they just don't document it all the time they go, which is cool, dude. Like that is awesome. That's someone who scooters because they love it, you know?
Yeah. There was a kid at Woodward. I don't even remember his name. He was doing the gnarliest stuff though. And he didn't have an Instagram or anything. The vault was like, "Hey, can we put you on our, like we want to record this. Can we put it on our Instagram?" He's like, "No, I'm good."
That's awesome. I love that.
And then he just send himself.
That's great. That's the authentic example of pure passion.
Yeah. He's like, "Yeah, no, I'm good. I just want to jump off this building." Like
that's scootering. Yeah. That's the scootering right there.
Yeah.
Super cool.
So those were the cool experiences, and then you want to be like that for anything that you do, I think. So
absolutely.
Yeah, it's just where do we go now? Where are the scooter riders gonna engulf next, right? Because the sport's only old enough that we can kind of be getting into our careers right now. So
yeah, I mean, like I don't really want to look too far into that. Honestly, I just hope that people keep pushing when they can.
Yeah.
Really, that's it. Both in the physical term and the kind of figurative sense of the phrase. Like, just appreciate and acknowledge your roots. Like, acknowledge what scootering taught you, and keep that passion up. Because it's going to continue to teach you things.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, also, offer that to the next generation.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, dude, the gift of, again, here we go. Here's some spiritual Instagram like scooter philosophy for you. Like I think giving the gift of scootering to someone, like introducing them to the sport, is something that they would like never be able to repay if they really found themselves passionate about the sport, you know? Like it absolutely makes you a better person. 100%.
I think it's that way with any of the action sports if you're in it for the right reason, in the way that like whatever gets you to that thing that like you can fail, like you're expected to fail a lot and it's okay and it's good, and you're not supposed to do it because you want anything from it except for just the fun of it. And being able to go there every day and know that you're going to fall down and know that you're not going to land things the first time, and you may go and do it 100 times and you still like, I'm still going to eat shit on a tail whip. Like it's just going to happen. Like, and knowing that and going anyway and having fun the whole time, like what does that say about everything else in life, right?
Yep.
So, and it's just as much, if not more, that way in skateboarding and or BMX, right? So like whatever gets you there and whatever keeps you there. Exactly. If you want to switch and do all three or switch to skateboarding or BMX, like I don't care.
Whatever
just show up.
Is,
let's hang out.
Yeah, whatever makes you tick, do it. Scootering is an excellent vessel to get you where you need to go, physically and mentally,
spiritually,
and
like
socially.
When you
it's
hit
an
your
outlet
head
for everything, really. Like I know all these things can be made into some like, again, like some wooden beads topic of conversation, but it's so true, dude.
It is very true.
Like it's something that I'm very thankful that I found.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool. We're almost at 2 hours here. So
yeah, it's crazy that we were about to wrap this up half a podcast ago.
I know, like half the podcast ago, and then we got started on some spiritual, down the roads type stuff. But no, I always enjoy these. Thank you for coming on, Sam, again. And thank you guys all for listening. And season 4 of Outlook Industries.
Season 3, Outlook Industries, baby, let's go.
So we're getting her done. And so watch out for new ones. Shoot me over any people that you guys want to see in the future. You can go to Outlook_Industries on Instagram, comment it there, send me a DM, and or go to my personal Trev's Think Tank. Sam, what is your Instagram, or where can people find your work?
My scootering Instagram is at Sam Wiens. My meme page is Supportyourlocalgasstation, and my film Instagram is Sam Wiens Film.
Well, perfect. Well, yeah, thank you guys again for listening, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.